Alright, let's see if we are live. We're going to go with window cap. Are we there? Yes, we are, sort of. And at some point, perhaps, we will have a wild ash all day wander in. So, I suppose I'm just going to hang out here for the moment. Where were we? Oh no. I lost everything. Hey guys, how's it going? I can see some of you. Where are we? Okay, well it's all, the chat's now disabled for the other stream. Oh, ish. I didn't transition like a retard. How's it going?
Alright, I'm here. You can hear me? All
yeah,
good?
Yeah, I can hear you. So we are doing okay. We are doing okay now. Oh, fantastic. How's it going?
Hold on.
Okay.
Let's see here. Okay. Gotta make sure everything's working. Wait,
Yeah.
where did it go? There we go. Okay, found it. Goodness gracious.
So fewer boomer tech issues, basically.
No, oh my god.
Yeah, it's okay.
How embarrassing.
It's fine. It's
right.
fine. At some point, I'll give a little walkthrough on OBS. It's actually really easy. So, yeah, just okay for later. But anyway,
yeah, that would be great if you could. Like, I kind of got the basics down. It's just like there's so much on OBS. It's like good God, there's just too much shit. I feel like
it's
a
not
lot
intuitive.
of it's unnecessary.
It's really not intuitive. And
yeah,
like the good thing about okay, now we're just talking about OBS. We're not talking about anything important. Anyway, but the good thing about OBS is that it has a lot of features and functions that are really, really handy. And once you kind of understand how it's supposed to work, it's not that it becomes intuitive, it just gets much easier to understand what you probably want to do. So
yeah.
Think of it like MS Paint. Just think of it like MS Paint. Once you get the basic moves, everything starts to make sense after that. But you have to understand the basic moves first.
Yeah. That's the thing. It's like, what's basic on here? I have no idea. Well, I mean, I don't know. I guess I did get somewhat the basics. Then you can go into the settings and it's like, oh my god, there's too much shit.
Dude.
Like, that's why I like iPhones. I'm a simple gal.
Yeah, they also have this thing.
Simple.
They decided to change up how you load files or whatever, and you actually have to click like relative to the way that it used to be like a couple months ago, you have to click an extra button to load a file, and I didn't know that new button existed, so I had to like sit there like an idiot and just like randomly click things until I finally realized, oh, there's a new thing there that never existed before. And that's how I figured it out, because whatever, anyway, it makes sense after a while anyway.
Yeah. I'll figure it out. That, or I sometimes go and watch YouTube videos on how to even operate it.
Yeah, that's how I ended up dealing with everything.
Which helps too. Yeah. Until it's like the one question you have and nobody knows how to, or nobody's answering like the one thing I have.
Yeah.
That's frustrating too.
Yeah. Yeah. Back when I was first learning non-linear video editing, there were several questions that I had about how to do certain things, and my god, trying to figure out the simplest goddamn function, holy crap. Because like when you're looking for one thing, it's like, whatever, anyway, it doesn't matter. Okay, it doesn't matter. Anyway.
Nah, you're good.
Yeah, so, anyhow.
What's been going on, man? How's LA treating you? It's been a while since I've talked to you.
Yeah, I gotta get the hell out of here, man. I'm really jealous that you went out back to a place that I'm sure is much more sane than I don't know where in Texas you were, but judging by some
Houston.
of the...
I was in Houston.
Okay,
or like
so...
the suburbs of Houston.
Okay, so it's not exactly straight ahead Globo Homo, but it's approaching, like really approaching.
I don't know. I would almost say that it is, mostly because it's still the South. Like Texas is the last place. It's like the furthest state that's west that's still considered Southern,
Yeah.
and all the cities they're toast. Like Austin is a liberal shithole. Houston
Yeah.
is more diverse. I think it's actually one of the most diverse diverse cities that are in the U.S. right now. And I think I told you this before, but my pastor was talking about how Houston is, or like the most of the country is going to look like Houston in like the year 2050 or something like that. It's
That's not
kind of terrifying.
black pilling. That is not black pilling at all.
I know. I
Nothing about
know.
that is terrifying. Nothing about that makes me feel uneasy.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I don't know if you heard in my stream like at the beginning, because I moved up with my sister and she lives like 25 minutes outside of St. Louis, and we had to drive through St. Louis to, well, you don't have to, you can take like other freeways and whatnot to get to where you're going, but the quickest way is usually you have to go through East Saint. And if anybody knows East Saint, it's like it's the hood. So you go over the river through the hood, and then you're safe. And I took a left instead of going straight. Like my brother-in-law, who was in front of me, he was going straight, and then my map said this way was faster. So I turned down this road, and I'm like 200 yards down, and I'm like, oh shit, I should not have done that at all.
Oh
But I
no.
was like terrified. The speed limit's like 35, and I'm like gripping the handlebars. Oh my God, like the steering wheel, and like, oh my God, please, like somebody don't come mug me. All I had
Yeah.
on me was my pocket knife. But I mean, I got out there, I was fine. But it's you get that feeling, like literally everybody you see either like driving across from me, coming down my way, people walking on the streets, all black. And like, I'm not saying it's bad that they're all black. I'm just saying I didn't feel comfortable in that area. You know,
Well, but
like I wasn't around my own.
yeah, but they see us as different. So,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
like on
And we
a,
are like, I don't think there's nothing wrong with being different. Like I think
yeah,
that's kind of that's a big issue with a lot of people. They'll say, "Oh no, 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 we aren't different," but like we are. Even like whites within ourselves are different. Like the whites
yeah,
of the
yeah.
East Coast where I'm from are totally different than whites from the West Coast. Maybe it's like a culture thing, which I'm sure it is.
I think it's a
But
combination of things because on the East
yeah.
Coast there's a lot more British blood, and out on the West Coast
Mhm.
it's a little bit more Germanic, just a hair.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah, especially in the Midwest, like the Dakotas and whatnot.
yeah,
There's a
yeah,
lot
yeah, yeah,
of German influence up there.
yeah.
Like the Hutterites, they kind of speak like a mixture of like some type of old German, and they probably throw in some English words here and there. But
Yeah. Well, and
yeah, I think you're right. There's a lot of British influence on the East Coast.
well, yeah. I mean, that's basically Appalachian.
Hmm.
That whole area up and down, all the country music was basically lifted from like traditional English and Scott music. So,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
but yeah.
Yeah,
Anyway,
I'm just calling myself. I'm Appalachian. So if anybody wants to know my ethnicity, I'm Appalachian. Damn it! Like,
I
I'm
like
born
it.
and raised in the South.
I like it. I like it. Yeah, that whole thing you're talking about, though, going to neighborhoods where like you just suddenly realize that you're an outsider, and you're like, wait a minute,
Yeah.
dude. I here in Los Angeles, that's most neighborhoods for me.
Hmm.
So, and I live currently in one of the whiter neighborhoods. I finally, because I didn't want to look at it, because it's just too depressing to watch. But I finally looked up the demography of my area, and I don't actually remember what it was, but it was something like 62%, 62%, and I'm in one of the whiter areas.
Damn.
Yeah, and it's only going down. Okay, and it's like whenever I don't go east of La Cienega because people stop speaking English very fast.
Mm.
And I mean, nobody here knows what La Cienega is. It's let's see, how do I describe it? If you look at the entire bowl of the LA, like the Los Angeles basin, basically LA County, you've got the Santa Monica Mountains to the north, you've got the San Bernardino Mountains out to the east, you've got the ocean to the west, and then down south you would have maybe like Long Beach or something.
Yeah.
La Cienega is basically like West LA. That's the divider for West LA, West Los Angeles. But even West Los Angeles, like as a total, is going through huge demographic shifts right now.
Ugh,
Huge,
horrible.
monumental. I mean, to the point where I was listening to a fellow white virtue signal about how she didn't want to live in a white community and she wanted to live amongst diversity, and then she was bemoaning that the community that she's lived in for the past 30 years has become too diverse. And it's like, well, be careful what you ask for, lady. And that's what's going on, like up and down, all the way across, like everywhere. And interestingly, there's a thing where in Santa Monica, and again, for people who don't know, Santa Monica is at the northern section of the general LA basin, so right up against the Santa Monica Mountains before you get to the valley, and like right on the beach. Santa Monica, there is some kind of a thing where, and of course this is spearheaded, I'm 100% sure it was spearheaded by fellow whites, and it's this thing where they noticed that the Mexican population, they're always getting outvoted. And so they thought to themselves, what can we do to give them a voice? They're going to start changing voting patterns in such a way that non-Mexicans can only vote once per election cycle, or per every like other election cycle or something. So you literally get fewer votes if you're not Mexican. And that's going to be happening in Santa Monica.
Jesus Christ, man.
Yeah, no, it's not a joke here. It's not a joke. What's happening here is absolutely serious. And I was thinking about trying to stay, put in the good fight, don't let everything get taken, blah, blah, blah. And somewhere around the middle of this year, I was just like, actually, there's nothing to fight for. Zed S is here. Hey, buddy, what's going down? Yeah, there's nothing to freaking fight for here. There's nothing to die for in Los Angeles at all. So I guess what I'm saying is that I'm, relative to just Los Angeles, I'm terribly black-pilled. Which is unfortunate, but I'd rather have a realistic view than a non-realistic view. So I guess that's the long and the short of where I am. It's hell. It's absolute hell here. So.
Damn. What kind of sucks, and I wish I could remember who told me something about it or where I heard it from, somebody like on the stream or something. But they were talking about how we can't just give up the cities, because as soon as you give the cities up, they're pretty much the ones that, or the cities are what dictate a state and how they're going to turn in election season. I keep thinking about Texas, and like literally every single major city was blue, and it was going to affect the entire state,
Yeah, what people don't, as boomers especially, what they do not understand, oh my god, especially white boomers, they have no idea that their gun rights are gone. I mean, they still have it's still being observed. The Second Amendment is still being observed in Texas. And in the very near future, simply because of voting patterns and demographics, the right to keep and bear arms will not, it's going to be identical to California. On paper, I have the right to keep and bear arms. On paper. If I set foot outside of my house with my legally owned firearm, I will be maliciously prosecuted by the first lawyer that lays eyes on me. So it's only on paper, and that's it. And that's going to happen in Texas. And yeah, like I kind of feel, because when you talk about things like the cities, this is still not real. This the implications of the demographic shifts are real to us in this chat, and that's it. So basically, like the dissident right, which is what, like 3%, 5% at most of the population, that's it. So 3% of the population gets it. Meanwhile, every fucking boomer is like, you ain't taking my guns, man. Mullen lobby. And
Yeah.
and I do type out Mullen lobby a lot, so I'm a little bit hypocritical there. But the point is that I'm not approaching this with naivete. I'm approaching this with the full understanding that we're going to, if we are going to retain our God-given rights, it's gonna be an uphill battle. It's gonna be serious, and the boomers, I don't think they're gonna do shit to help.
I don't think they're going to either. And I don't know. I've been kind of thinking of like arguments to use with like quote unquote minorities, and I think something that you could probably, especially with like with African Americans, you can almost get them on an argument when it comes to police and like police brutality.
Oh
And
yeah,
the way
yeah.
I'm kind of thinking about approaching this is kind of getting on their side in a way of saying, and actually, I'm also sincere about it, but things like yeah, there is police brutality. There is, there are white cops that deal with black civilians, and things go absolutely horribly. And I think it's because we live in such a low trust society, and that comes with multiculturalism. So now you're going to have, white police officers going into the hood to try to patrol. And of course, the black citizens aren't going to trust a white cop, and the white cop is not going to trust black citizens. So I'm on the side of saying that like blacks deserve their own cops. Like I think that would be great for them,
I
and it would
actually
be
agree with
better for
that,
the
by the
cops
way.
as well.
I
Like
actually
yeah,
do agree. Like, in all
yeah,
honesty, I'm not joking. I really think that's a good idea, and I'd be
yeah.
completely on board with that, because I realized a while ago that my main complaint with the way that things are going is that the people that are going to purport to rule me, they don't like me.
Hmm.
They hold me in contempt. I don't want to be, quote, ruled. I don't view myself as being ruled by these people. I view it as they are issuing dictates under duress. That's how I frame these situations psychologically. It's easier for me. So
Hmm.
they don't rule me. It's just that I know that they'll hurt me if I disobey their commands.
Right.
Anyway, I don't
Well,
want
I mean, this
people.
is what happens, right?
Yeah,
Like in a multicultural society, like it's going to happen. It's all low trust. Like
yeah,
I would not trust a soul when I'm driving through the freaking hood of East Saint. Like it
yeah.
just being realistic, you know?
Dude, I used to. I had a buddy that I used to drive into. It wasn't South Central, but it was on the border of South Central. And every time I would drive him, he was like a coworker. So these are just the things that happen. You find yourself in Los Angeles with friends that live in weird neighborhoods because that's all they can afford. And he was a Mexican guy, so it was easy for him to blend in. He was the lighter side of mestizo, so he was still just a normal Mexican dude, but whatever. Anyway, yeah, like I would drive him over. Like, and one time I was low on gas, and I had to I had to go to a gas station, get fuel and whatnot. And the moment I left the car, I felt so exposed. And I
Yeah.
was like, dude,
Yeah.
I'm not fucking comfortable. And this was in one of the sections that was on the border between the part where the Mexicans had fully ethnically cleansed the blacks and the section where they had yet to ethnically cleanse the blacks. So I had a Mexican guy in my car with a crapload of black people around me, and suddenly I saw the situation out of this is like 2-3 years ago. I just saw that this is no 2 years ago. This was immediately before I got fully red pilled, and out of nowhere, even in my blue pilled state, I just saw it, and I was like, wait a minute, this is actually really dangerous.
Sore thumb, buddy.
Yeah,
Whoa.
and I'm
Yeah,
like,
it's eye-opening when you're in that kind of a situation, you know?
yeah,
And like I guess everybody, well, maybe some people don't care, but there's a lot of people like, oh no, I'm not racist. Like I would kind of like to see just people that I know personally that are very like left wing, like go walk down the hood, like just walk down there all by yourself, woman. Go just try it. And of course, like, oh no, 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 I don't feel safe. Of course you don't. And it's like
And yeah,
it's like these truths that people try to hide. And I think like it is white guilt, there is something to that. It's like they're the most, or we're the most what do you call it, like forgiving and open people,
yeah,
you know
yeah. Because I
and
was
it's
thinking
kind
about
of
it.
like our downfall.
Okay, so I finally returned my book on Purim, so I'm not reading from that anymore. And I went to the library, and I just ordered a book of essays by Maimonides. I don't know if you know of Maimonides.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the guy, for those in the chat who may not be aware. Maimonides was one of the people that Ben Shapiro was talking about when speaking with Joe Rogan just a few
Yep.
months ago.
Yep.
But of course, Ben Shapiro did not make mention that Maimonides was a Talmudic scholar. He was not exactly forthcoming with that information. Anyhow, now that I am in a space in between books, I want something to read before I get my new book. So I've decided to read the 613 mitzvahs. That's what I'm going to do. 613 mitzvahs.
Woo!
Yeah, it's going to be
Do you
intense.
have the there's I think it's called Safaria. Let me
Yeah,
look
yeah,
it up
yeah.
real fast.
Yeah, I got
Do you
that.
have that
Yeah.
app on your phone?
No,
Oh, it's great, isn't it?
yeah, I'm
Like,
going to start going through it. By the way, I'm going to be looking up the word idolater. I was initially looking up goyim. Look up idolater. I think that's the word that I want to use now for looking up, because they have very specific ideas on what to do about idolaters. Anyhow, the thing is that I was thinking about in-group preference versus out-group preference. When you say things like whites are very forgiving and whatnot, I was thinking about my own mentality versus because I started looking through some of the mitzvahs. I think it's the mid 400s or so. Those are the fun ones. I'm really looking forward to getting to those. They talk about idolaters. And I was thinking about what they say about idolaters, outgroup. And it was something like always hate the outgroup. Don't have pity on your pursuer. These kinds of things. And I was thinking about how, like, my family refers to outgroup, how you refer to outgroup, how I refer to outgroup, just people in white people in general. And I genuinely don't care. Like, as far as I'm concerned, like, some of my not friends, but pals, I'll say. Some of my pals are black and Mexican and Asian and even fellow whites, and I don't care. To me, it's not a big deal. I actually do want people to just be happy, to be able to hang out, and
yeah, it's well, freedom of association.
yeah, exactly. And from my standpoint, it's like, well, but on an individual level, I have no problem with anyone. I really don't care. I'll hang out with anyone as long as they're nice to me. I'll chit chat. I'm okay with that. And
Yeah.
but that's my idea on how to deal with outgroup, but it's not reciprocated. And I think that, like, I really think that this is a major issue within the white population. We have been so conditioned to have almost preference. I mean, for here in Los Angeles, fucking Progs, there's almost like a xenophilia, and I guess I was gonna say homophobia, but like reference to white people. But you know what I mean, though. You know what I mean.
Yeah.
And yeah, like that's really our Achilles heel.
Well, I mean, I think a lot of it, of course, I mean, I don't know, the media, Hollywood, the music industry is absolutely disgusting. And I know you had this scene at the VMA. Is it the VMA Awards or whatever awards it was?
Yeah,
When
yeah.
that big old fat black chick gets up on there and she's like almost naked dancing around. They have that jiggly ass on the stage. This is America. Like, it
Yeah.
kind of hit me like, oh my God, people around the world are watching this. And like, oh, look at America. Like, how embarrassing, And then,
Yeah.
of course, when they do like the pano of the audience, you'll see like white girls, like, doing their thing.
Oh
Yeah,
God, yeah.
Jonathan Poll twerking. You're
They're
like, what
like
are you doing?
but they're
What are you
LARPing. They're LARPing like they're black.
They are, yeah.
And I'll be the first to admit, I love Michael Jackson. People are going to raise their eyebrows and scoff at me. I don't care, but I do like a lot of instrumental hip-hop. I think it's fun. It's clever music or whatever. It's good, easy listening.
Yeah. I like some of it too. Yeah.
Yeah. But the thing is that, like, I know damned well that I'm not black. I'm not going to pretend to be.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like,
Exactly.
I like
exactly.
it. It's fun, but I'm not going to be like, yo, it's just tight, son. Like, I might as a joke.
Yeah.
But, like, that's as far as it's going to go. But, like, some of these people, I would swear that they're actually, like, way into it, like, formally. It's like, oh, I grit my teeth and wince just thinking about it.
Yeah, it's awful. I think that's one of my biggest, like, pet peeves is people that aren't black that like speak like they are. They'll try to speak in Ebonics. Sometimes I'll joke around and speak Ebonic just because people think I'm part black, so I kind of like kind of troll a little bit. But there really are people that are like that. They'll use black lingo and they'll slang their words. They're speaking in Ebonics. Frankly, it's kind of embarrassing. And I have daughters, and I'm watching this lady up on stage, and she's doing her thing, and I'm just like, oh my God, my daughters are not going to watch this. And if they ever do see it, then I'm going to, make damn sure, like, hey, that's not us. We don't do that. Like, you're not a black girl,
Yeah. Oh my God, I couldn't handle that. That's amongst the reasons that I've got to get out of Los Angeles, that is one of the reasons, because in a perfect world, I somehow managed to score a blue-eyed wife. Somehow. I'm crossing my fingers for it. We'll see what happens. Anyhow, I would be mortified to have kids in this environment. Up in the Bay Area, earlier this year, I think it was in June or possibly July, there was some kind of a movie with the title, I know you saw this on Twitter, you have to have seen this on Twitter by now. The title of this little movie or documentary or whatever was Why Aren't We Murdering More White People?
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And fucking boomers still think that it's 1970 something and we can all just somehow get along and everything's fine, that we're still a majority white country and in spirit nothing has fundamentally changed. Meanwhile, their grandchildren are going to be going to school with other kids that view them as outgroup, and those little kids are being exposed to sentiments like, why aren't we murdering more of you?
Yeah.
I do not want my kids anywhere fucking near that.
Yep, exactly. And that's why I chose to homeschool my daughters. And I have no regrets whatsoever. And so I'm in Illinois right now. And so my nephew goes to the school here. And I mean, it's a good little school. My brother-in-law went there when he was a kid. And but the governor of Illinois, I think I shared it on Twitter, but the governor of Illinois just signed a bill that says that all students in public schools must learn about LGBTQ history by the time they hit 8th grade. So once they're out of 8th grade, they have to know like the history of the gay and lesbian and bisexual movement. Like fuck that. No, my daughter is not going to learn that. I'm a teacher about it. AIDS, it's sodomy, it's AIDS, it's disgusting, it's a sin. We're not doing that. Like, that's disgusting. It's pure indoctrination. It's disgusting. And then there was another so right across the river, because I'm over by St. Louis, right across the river in Missouri, there was a school that had a teacher. I think it was a male teacher, but apparently the pronoun was like a they them type pronoun. Instead of saying like Mr. So-and-so, it was like they, I don't freaking, it was ridiculous. But the school had actually chosen to honor the teacher's wishes of what to be called. And apparently like parents were pretty pissed off, thank God. But that's where we are, man. It's disgusting, dude. Oh, I hate it. I hate it so much. I shouldn't have to like homeschool my kid because in fear of indoctrination, But here I am.
Well, but it's
I'm glad. But my daughter's she's gonna learn.
What other option is there, really? Seriously.
Yeah.
Because amongst the issues is, and some of these topics are unpleasant to think about and talk about, but whatever. I mean, it's reality, and I'm gonna have, if somehow I manage to have my way, and I do manage to wife up and get kids, I'll have to think about this too, realistically. But statistically, in this day and age, females lose their virginity before the age of 18. And before they are college age, they have typically had more than 5 partners. By statistics, that means an end to pair bonding. I don't want my kids exposed to that, male or female. I don't want that.
Yeah. It's hard. It's so hard to do, man. Like, how do you, and this is something as a parent, like my daughter, she just turned 6 yesterday, and I'm just thinking in my head, like, what do I do? I don't want to put them in a bubble to where when they get older and they're on their own and all of a sudden they say, Mom, you never told us about all of this. It's so, so here's something that happened a couple weeks ago. There was a park right down the street, and my brother-in-law and I, and he's got 2 kids, and of course my kids, we walked down to this park, and there's this lady there. She's obviously high on something, and she's she's fucking nuts. And she's talking to herself, she's being real loud, and I have my 2 dogs with me, and she's like saying things about them and saying things about my kids. All of a sudden starts talking like a British accent. Obviously, like, she's suffering. And my kid, like my oldest daughter, she's kind of looking at her and like, what the hell is going on? So we get to the playground, and at this point the lady's probably like 50 yards away from us and whatnot, and my oldest daughter still keeps looking at her, and then she'll go play. And then for whatever reason, something kind of occurred to me, like, I gotta go over and say something to her. So I walked over, and I'm like, see that lady over there? And my daughter's looking, I'm like, she's not normal, honey. Like, she's on drugs. She does, she's kind of suffering. And I don't know, I was trying to put it in a term where, 5, 6-year-old can understand it. Like, I just wanted her to basically understand that what she was seeing is not normal.
God.
Because what we're seeing all across the country is just shit tons of people addicted to opioids, tons of homelessness. And we're almost conditioned to the point where you see homeless and it's like, oh, look, just another homeless person. But I don't want my daughters to see that and think that it's normal. So I, for whatever reason, something just came over me where I had to make a point to her to saying, hey, like, that's not normal. Like, she's sick, but I don't want my kids to grow up thinking, it's normal to see homeless. It's normal for people to be on opioids, because it's not normal at all. And somehow or another along the line, it has become the norm, unfortunately.
Yeah. Something about trying to describe that to a little kid just seems really unpleasant.
Yeah. Like, I don't know. My daughter, she's pretty smart. So I was kind of telling her, I don't know, like, just doing bad things to her body, and it's her, like, it is hard to explain to like a 6-year-old, but yeah, I just pretty much told her, like, her head, like, in her mind, she's not all there. Like, she's kind of crazy, and she's sick. And I don't know, I'm sure she was probably a prostitute, because once this other dude came up to her, I was like, all right, it's time to go. So we got the kids, the dogs, and we booked it back home. But yeah, it's just sad. And this is beautiful park, like these beautiful big giant trees, and there's like a nice little pond. There's like this fucking crackhead underneath the awning. It's just tragic, to be honest.
Yeah. Oh, let's see, Re-normie get out. I'm curious to know, I don't want to know anything specific, but I'd like to know what city you're in, just general region, just for the sake of curiosity. Yeah, there's when you talk about we shouldn't be abandoning the cities, I completely concur. And the incident with that woman, like, that I do think that my leaving the city in some way is not good, because I am basically abandoning the people that are trapped here.
Yeah.
And I don't have any way of reconciling that. I'm a little bit too old to be doing much of anything, and my position is not secure here in Los Angeles. Like, if creepy Antifa types were to decide to come after me, I would be at a loss. I wouldn't be able to do anything about it at all. So it's like, yeah, basically at the moment, I can't wait to get out of here, but at the moment, my hands are kind of tied, because if I start to say anything or do anything, I will immediately be, because my thought pattern with regards to the label of white nationalist is the official definitions are very loosey-goosey and, in my opinion, don't make a lot of sense. So the definition that I've been using lately is any white person that objects to being demographically replaced is a white nationalist. That's what the left is going to do. So I'm white. I know that I'm being demographically replaced, which, that's fucking borderline. I'm skirting the line just with that alone. And I have objected to being demographically replaced, which means that they will brand me a white nationalist. And it's like, well, shit. And it's like, and there are people that think like me here in the city, but they don't dare speak up because they, like me, know that they can't say anything. So it's like, at a certain point, it's just so weird. It's so surreal. The ability to speak is kind of the linchpin here. Ironically, the First Amendment, though it took 250 years to take out, they did it. And that's the thing that's
gone.
really killing us right now.
Yeah.
Anyway, but the thing is that with the abandoning of the cities, I kind of agree, because thinking about your situation where you are, I'm going to be looking at something like that myself, because once I leave Los Angeles, where am I going to go? I'm going to go to some weird place where I'm going to see the same thing, but it's going to be not as advanced as what's here in Los Angeles.
Yeah. Well, it kind of sucks. I personally, I don't want to live in a city. When I lived in the Bay Area, I hated it. I cannot stand city living. I've been to Los Angeles quite a few times. I can't stand the city. And so it kind of sucked. Well, I don't want to be in the city either. I want my land and my country so I can start my homestead, but somebody's got to do it. It definitely can't be me. I can't do it. There's nothing I can do. But that's the other part though, right? So, aren't the cities kind of already done? They're already gone. That's why I think it's the American empire is gonna fall. We're no longer United States. We're the United Empire, and it's gonna fall very quickly. I think. Yes. I think things are just ramping up. We're either gonna end up in a civil war where it can get real ugly. I guess the only thing we can really hope for is a peaceful separation, but that's not going to be peaceful. And now it's going to be, who's going to get California? Who's going to get the East Coast? Who's going to get Texas? It's going to be.
Aslan
is real. It's going to suck, man.
Aslan is real. I live in Aslan right now.
Yeah.
So the question of who's okay. So the future belongs to those who show up. Who showed up? So there's your answer.
Yeah, that's true. And so I'm reading the Gulag Archipelago by Solzhenitsyn, and there was something in there that kind of stuck. Well, there's a bunch of things that stuck with me. One of the things that he said when it comes to the interrogations. Did you ever read it? Did you ever read the book?
No. I started. No. I was 200 Years Together.
Okay, yeah, that's my other one. I'm trying to get the whole book, but I can only seem to find the translation with a couple chapters.
Yeah.
But no, the Gulag Archipelago, you should read it. Okay, it's great. But there was a part where Solzhenitsyn is talking about the interrogations. They pretty much they'll just interrogate you and torture you in order for you to sign the paper. But something that stood out to me was especially it was an atheist society, they were basically trying to kill off God and religion. But it's interesting because he said the women were the ones that actually kept the faith more than any other man or woman, but the women were the ones that would keep the faith. And then he also said and it seemed to be women that did it for whatever reason, maybe the torture techniques or whatever, but the ones that would just say no, were the ones that would actually let them go. He said there was one woman, I think some Russian woman, and they kept trying to get her to tell them where her husband went. I guess they were in the same camp or in the same prison area, and he escaped, and they kept trying to get her to get him, well, how did he do it? And she would not do it. She did not give in. And then eventually they just let her go. Like she didn't have to stay in prison at all. They just let her go because she said no. And there's a couple times like he mentioned in the book that it happened. Like that's it. You don't give in. Like don't give in to them. Just say no and you'll be
Yeah.
okay. I mean, you might be martyred, but
Well,
which isn't good either.
that's actually
Kind of
the.
sucks, right?
Well, I mean, God, I don't want to think about that. But I do. That's actually the correct position. Literally, just say no. And that's my thought pattern with regards to firearms. And I'd love to do that with speech. The only reason that I don't do that with speech, the only reason that I'm not outspoken here in Los Angeles is because I'm deathly afraid that Antifa or some crazy asshole will just find me and be like, I got a great idea, let's fuck with this guy. I just don't want to deal with that shit.
Yeah, and I don't blame you. I don't blame you one bit.
Yeah, because, like, once you get doxxed, you know, in a city full of several million people, it takes nothing for a person to be like, I know what I'll do. I'll just go and visit this person's house at X time of day and just fuck with them. And what would I be able to do? Nothing. I would be totally helpless. But anyway, with regards to firearms, the appropriate answer is to refuse to obey their dictates, refuse to give them anything. Don't give them your fucking magazines.
Yeah,
you know?
no, not at all. Nope,
Yeah.
nope,
And
nope.
keep buying parts. Keep buying parts.
Yeah.
Get yourself a couple of lowers. Just keep it going. Keep it going. Keep it going. Get more bullets. And unfortunately, this I'm very displeased about. Here in California, there will very soon be serious challenges to this, and like prohibition style challenges, because now that we have the ammunition registry, there's going to be a lot of red flagging that starts taking place. So the ammunition registry means that they know what you own approximately. If you purchase, because they know every round that I have not purchased any ammunition since the law took effect, and that's because I'm still a little bit bummed out about it and I don't want to deal with it. I can still purchase ammunition. It's not like the end of the world, but the problem is that I don't want the DOJ to know every round that I purchase. That's the issue.
Did the law take into effect yet with California? I remember right before we left last year, they were talking about like if you buy ammo, you have to go pick it up through a store.
June
Like, so I
1st.
guess you could order it online. It would just be delivered to your house. But I think they were going to. I don't know if it passed, but yeah,
No,
I don't. Did it pass? Like you have to pick up your ammunition at a gun store.
Yeah. So if you purchase ammunition online, it has to go to an FFL, and you pick it up there.
Ugh, it's ridiculous.
So
it's gone,
online
man.
purchases,
Or the country's so fucked. I
online
know that's
purchases
blackpilling, but
are
damn.
over. There's no more online purchasing of ammunition in California, and you cannot carry with you more than like 50 rounds or something out of state. So if you cross state lines with 51, I don't remember the exact number, so I'm using 50 as don't take me seriously, don't think that I'm fully knowledgeable about this, but if you cross state lines going from Nevada to California with 51 rounds of even 22, you've now committed a felony. So that's just where we are.
Damn, man.
So the only way that you can legally purchase ammunition in California is to log every round that you purchase with the DOJ. And what that means is remembering that whole thing that I was saying earlier about the functional definition of a white nationalist is basically any white person that objects to being demographically replaced. I think that these red flag laws in combination with that definition is going to be a vector on who they're going to go for. So
yeah,
if I was very outspoken, and if I had like picnic tables with little curtains over them saying, America is a white country, change my mind or something, I would be called a white nationalist. A red flag law would be hit on me, and they would know because of my purchasing habits, they would know what I have.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, if I was purchasing a shitload of 40 or 10 millimeter, they could surmise that I probably had a Glock, probably. If I was purchasing a lot of 357, probably a revolver, but maybe a lever action. Just go down the line. Just go down the line.
Anytime you buy a gun, of course, your name's going to be attached to the serial number that's, lasered into the guns. So
only if you register.
they got you there.
Yeah, but it's at the moment it's still kept in gun shops, and it's not supposed to be given to the government. So it's not technically a registry, because you're not registering it with the government. It's just that those records are kept at the FFL. So I'm not pleased about that.
That's insane to me, man. Like we used to go buy like 500 round boxes of 22 ammo and just go like shoot beer cans out in the field when I was a kid, and just like to think, my God, they're gonna. I mean, it's happening already.
Basically over here in California. And anyway, but yeah, the thing is that there's going to be a real challenge to all of this Second Amendment stuff in places like California. Partly because there's so many rural areas. In New York, I don't know what they're doing in New York, but here in California, like, I mean, there's sections where there's just like farmland and there's nothing for miles. So, like, if you have a problem, you kind of have no choice but to just deal with it yourself. And that means that you're going to have a gun. So, and who are going to be the people that are most likely to be right-wing? The rural people.
Yeah.
So I think we're going to see some weird shit with regards to that. I don't know. I have no idea what it's going to look like. I really don't. Like, this is all, I don't have models for a lot of this, outside of like what happened 100 years ago in Europe. But that's completely modeled. Even that doesn't make a lot of sense to me anymore, because in Europe, you were largely dealing with an ethnically homogenous society, and now we're dealing with something that is so fractured that it would be easy to see just warring tribes gather, and at that point in time, you're talking about something approaching Mad Max. I mean, it's weird. It's really uncomfortable to think about sometimes. But anyway,
I don't want it. Like, I'm sure you're like me. I don't want that to happen. Like, I have children, man. Like, I don't want something like that to happen. But damn it, I'm going to be prepared if it does.
Yeah, I was actually thinking about. Okay, so in all the zombie movies, they always have characters that have no children. And and then when there's a kid introduced into the plot line, suddenly things get really fucking serious in the plot line. Like, it goes from being kind of a fun, plucky movie or TV show or whatever to suddenly like, no, there's stakes now. And I realized that, okay, so the novel The Road by Cormac McCarthy, with the movie starring Viggo Mortensen, that movie centers around a guy who has a little kid that he's trying to protect in the apocalypse. And in the novel, it's described that there is no growing plant life. Everything is just gray or brown or dead, and that's it. And that...
Wait, wasn't that The Road?
That's The Road, yeah. It's the novel.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
And the only part of the book was so bleak, I almost stopped reading it. And near the end of the book, there's a little section where they find morels on the ground, and they eat morels. And that was the thing where I was like, okay, now I can continue reading the book, because with life, there is hope. With no life, there is no hope. And that's kind of the way that that is 100% the way that I think about children, where in an apocalyptic scenario, it's completely a liability to have children. It's terrible from the standpoint of trying to figure out, you got to keep them warm. You got to keep them safe from God knows what weird shit is going on out there. You got to make sure that they've got food. You know, you want to make sure that they are psychologically protected as much as is possible, you know?
Yep.
But
yep. Stay quiet when they need to be quiet.
Yeah.
Woo, man.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my gosh, man. Yeah,
And
dude, that would be hell. Like at that point, like, would you even want to live? You know? Like,
you have no choice though. You have to, because if you don't, your kids don't. And I'm now thinking about kids in kind of that. That's my style of thought now, which is that without a future generation, there is no hope. There is no life. There is no civilization to protect. As trite as it is to say, children truly are the future. So I kind of feel like there's a duty where you have to take up that mantle. You must, because if you don't, everything that your ancestors fought and died for evaporates. They fought and died for nothing. So the way that I view it now is the ultimate honoring of your ancestors actually is to have kids and to rear happy, well-balanced children capable of having a good life.
Yeah. I agree on 100%. And that's a big reason why I decided to homeschool. And like, I don't know what the hell I'm doing, man, but I'm trying my best and I'm learning as I go. And you know, I've got other moms I talk to online and whatnot. They're giving me advice and tips, and like that is it. Like it's not going to happen in our generation. I'll be 30 in November, and like it's not going to happen with my generation. It won't happen with your generation, and it's the only future is the children. And what kind of sucks is they're all being indoctrinated. Like while we're speaking, children all across the country, whether they're in school, like at college, public school, even private school, who knows what they're doing there. But yeah, I think that's a big focus, man. And yeah, people do need to have kids, and everybody, I don't know, man. It's what do you do? What do you do? Do we just sit back and just watch this motherfucker burn, or what? It's going to, you know, like how many, like I'm one person. I have 2 kids. My daughter's just started 1st grade. So I don't know, like how many other millions of people out there have kids that are in the 1st grade right now that are sitting in public school with the No Child Left Behind Act posted outside their school, like what's posted outside of my nephew's school. And like, oh my, like I saw that. I took my dogs for a walk, and I went past my nephew's school, and that's the sign, like right at the entrance, right where you pull into the parking lot, and it's right there, the No Child Left Behind school. Like, oh no.
Yeah.
And all these poor innocent kids that are going there, like they have no idea, and the parents, they don't have a choice because they got to work. Who's going to homeschool their kids when everything's so expensive, and now you have to have both parents out the home in order to afford anything. Like the whole system's just fucked, man. And like we just had to change our lifestyle in order for me to stay home and raise the kids. And for me, it's well worth it because it's my kids, you know, and it is the future. So I got to at least do my part.
I think that's because, so with regards to like kids and the cities, I'm looking at a lot of these things as like we have certain things that we would like to do, and there's certain duties that we have to observe. So I think there's a certain amount of like balancing that has to take place. So it's more important to take care of your kids than it is to lay siege to a city, basically.
Yeah. And I saw somebody in the chat said that, where was it? It won't happen. It's like, it'll just be like the major cities. And I think it was Stellar J? Somebody said it. Sorry. I was looking, it was a really good comment. Yeah, he said only the major cities will burn. It's not as bad as it seems. I kind of agree. I mean, to an extent, I think, yeah, the major cities they're gonna burn. It's like Sodom and Gomorrah, and fire and brimstone are gonna just rain down from the heavens. Yeah. But I think there are a lot of good areas as well that can maybe pick up. But I don't know. Here's the other thing: is like Silicon Valley. It's our entire country is so dependent on that for technology. like all the social media platforms, they're all like the headquarters, Google, Apple, everything, Yahoo, you name it, it's all in Silicon Valley. So they're pretty much controlling everything.
Yeah.
And I don't know, like we are slaves, man. Like that's maybe technology is that yoke of slavery, and we can't break away from it. We become so accustomed and everything's so easy. And
well, I disagree only technically. I mean, from the standpoint of like, if you view technology as something that you simply can't live without, or if you serve I'm reminded of the Tucker Carlson concept of capitalism is not an entity that we must serve. Capitalism is just a tool, and that's it. My duty is to my kids, and if the tool of capitalism does not serve my kids having a good life, then I will burn that thing down. I will destroy it. That's the appropriate attitude.
Yeah, I agree. I actually agree with that. Like, I'm still, I don't know, I kind of bounce back and forth between that. Like, that's where I still kind of have libertarian views about, like, the capitalist and the free market. I think it should be on a national level. I don't think we should be making all these deals around the world. Like, that has no benefit to my country.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, they control everything, though. You know, it kind of sucks.
Yeah, it's really, my ideal situation would be to basically, as commie as it sounds, do away with the major corporations. Just be like, fuck off. Just get out of here.
Yeah.
And, let things basically go back to much more localized economies and businesses. I mean, we still had, even before the age of technology, there would be people who would create all these interesting contraptions, and you would almost have like regional stuff, like when the automobile was first introduced, there were all these weird cars being put out, and it depended on where you were, what you were going to get. Now, everything is basically the same couple of unibody frames with just different panels or something, and that's about it. And I don't like it at all. And of course, all the profits go to these hyper billionaires or whatever. It has nothing to do, like, even if you work at the plant, it has nothing to do with you. You don't really benefit outside of your paycheck, and that's really it. It doesn't benefit the community outside of the paycheck. I don't like it. But yeah, I'd be perfectly comfortable with basically scaling everything back down so that we don't have all of these doodads and whatever, and we basically just go back down to like 1930s levels of consumption. I'm cool with that. I'm totally cool with that.
Yeah. It's funny, speaking of like 1930s, I think there was somebody, I don't know, you retweet a lot, so I see most of the stuff like you put on my news feed, but it might have been you that reposted or retweeted it, but it was a picture from the sometime in the early eras of America, like 1920s or so, and all the people are like skinny. They're all it's all like white people, but they're all skinny. Like that's one of the first things I know. Like, oh my God, look, there's no fat people.
Yeah.
And man, like, isn't it? It's kind of sad how, I don't know. Maybe this is just the process of the merchants destroying nations throughout history. But like, damn, it's just kind of tragic. Like where I'm at now, the two, I guess the majority population or the demographics, you're either white or black, and I still say there's way more whites here than blacks, but like all the whites are just fat, man. Like I took my daughters to this orchard to pick peaches and blackberries, and we were like on this tractor ride going through the field, and I'm like looking around on this tractor, and all of the people are just overweight, man. It's like I'm laughing only because I don't know what else to do, but damn it, like what a tragedy. What a freaking tragedy. They're consumed with food. They watch Hollywood films. They listen to nonsense rap music, and you know, like we're in the ultimate degenerate last stages of an empire. And I'm just like, all right, let it fucking burn.
And this is why I keep coming back to the idea of the future belongs to those who show up. And I do think that it's more important to have a stable community than it is to lay siege to a city. Because, as depressing as this might sound, I think that there is going to be a population crunch for every calorie that we consume. Sorry, I've been talking all day, so my voice is starting to go, sorry. For every calorie that we consume, there are 10 calories of hydrocarbons that went into it. You know, pesticides, manufacturing, transportation, and so on.
Yeah.
So just eating food within the current system is not long-term viable, which means that we have to, maybe within a couple of generations, maybe not within our generation, but within a certain time span, we're going to have to start getting used to growing food locally again, the way that it used to be for basically all of human history. It only stopped with the advent of long-distance transportation, i.e. Rail stations and cars, and that is going to come to an end sooner or later. And what that means is that major cities, I mean, just go outside and look at what you can eat. If there's anything major that happens, you know, it's not just going to be, it's going to be locusts.
Well, you know what's interesting? Like, because I read Sun Tzu's The Art of War, and one of the things that he said, like, if you want to completely demolish a city, you take out the main import, like the roads that are used for importing food.
Yes.
And like, you take that out, and then you pretty much will starve out an entire city. And like, well, and you were talking about the what'd you call it? The carbons. Forgot the word you used. Sorry.
Hydrocarbons.
Yeah, you said the hydrocarbons. So I'm out in Illinois, and there's a lot of farmland out here, but when you ride down the roads, you see there'll be like a cornfield or soybeans or something, and there's always like there'll be a post in the ground with like a big sign of who owns the seeds.
Yeah.
And just like, oh man, like these poor farmers, they don't even own this food that they're growing. You know, they're basically working for these, you know, Monsanto like corporation. If it probably, I don't know if it's all Monsanto, but yeah, I mean, these poor farmers, they don't even own these seeds that they're growing and harvesting for feeding the world, right? Man, what a freaking tragedy. But yeah, I agree. Like, we have to go back to local growing. Back where I'm from in Virginia, there was this huge farm, and the guy, some white dude, but he used to hire like a bunch of Mexicans to pretty much come and pick all the fruits and veggies in his garden, and they'd set up like this big fruit and vegetable stand like right alongside the road that you could stop by and buy stuff. But I don't know, like we need more of that. And I think it's good for the farmers, it's good for the community, it's good for the soil.
Well, absent the hiring illegal immigrants part, I agree.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, 100%. But yeah, there is something to that. Like when I took my daughters to this farm and we're like picking peaches from trees, it's kind of cool. It's like, for one, I get to educate my kids on, you know, where food comes from, and two, it's it feels nice to eat something that I know where it came from. Like I picked that fruit, you know, like something about that feels good as well. And as soon as I'm able to, like we're looking to buy land somewhere in either Virginia or North Carolina, of course. And like I'm ready, man. Like I'm so ready, like just to start where I can have my damn food. Like I don't have to depend on the grocery store.
Well, that's actually, I think that's the future. I really think that's the future. And what I mean by that is, if we take seriously the idea that there is some kind of a weird event pending that could involve socialist whatever the hell weirdness, we just look to the examples of Soviet Union, East Germany, Poland, what else? Cuba, Venezuela now. All of them involved, obviously, horrific violence, clearly. And another one is food shortages. So if we just take seriously the idea that there could be problems with food chains, food distribution hubs and whatnot, and distribution, then the people that are most likely to survive are going to be the ones that have supplemental gardens. Side note to that, I was reading this thing about how to survive. It was written by a guy, I think he was not Brazilian, might have been Venezuelan, but I don't think it was Venezuelan. I think it was something else. Anyway, it was one of these Argentinian? I think it was Argentinian. He was Argentinian. I'm very sure he was Argentinian. Anyway, he went through one of these big collapses that happened in the early 2000s, and he had a blog, and he started writing about how he survived it. And one of the things that struck out, or that stuck out to me a lot, was if you do have a lot of provisions, foodstuffs and whatnot, still go out and ask for the government handouts that will be coming. And the reason for that is because if you are the only person that isn't going for the government handouts, everyone will wonder why. Yes.
Yeah.
And they're immediately going to start looking at you. So, like, you end up in these weird thought patterns where you're like, okay, I gotta go gray man, just to survive. I gotta look like everyone else.
This is straight out of Gulag, man.
Yeah. No, I know.
If they see you out in the fields picking up grains of whatever for your family, you'll be arrested and probably shot.
Yeah. No, I know. I know. This is why I keep thinking about just getting out of a major city, because it'll be the worst in major cities.
Yeah, it will be.
If it happens. If it doesn't happen, then that means that I move to some podunk county that no one cares about, and I live a relatively happy and bland life. I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Totally
are you still looking to move to like Idaho?
Probably.
That's still on your list?
It's pretty high up, and the reason is because in Idaho, the Second Amendment is still observed as the law of the land.
Yeah.
So, Texas, that's not going to be the case. Nevada, not going to be the case. Florida, not going to be the case. Go down the line. So.
Shoot, I actually thought about you like a week or two ago. When was it? Yeah, a couple weeks ago. We had to make an emergency trip to North Carolina, and we drove there, and we had to go through Kentucky. I remember hearing you mention Kentucky. I almost took a picture and sent it to you, but I was freaking driving. But I'm looking around like, oh my God, look at all this land I could have. And it's just like kind of rolling hills of farmland, and it's all white people. We stopped to get gas and ate at a Chick-fil-A, and I'm in there like, oh my God. Like, it's all white people. I don't know what that would be like. It's crazy, man. Like, I'm not even kidding. After living in California and then in Houston, and then moving to an area where it's mostly white people, I look around and I even told my sister, like, it just doesn't feel normal, and like it feels better, but it's like it's almost like another culture shock. Like, oh, there's not tons of Indians and not tons of Asians and not tons of there's blacks, but you can avoid those areas if you have to. But it's like wow, I forgot what this is like almost.
Yeah, the weird, like, I grew up with that as a little kid, and I took it for granted. I mean, in the sense that, like, little kids, they don't, you exist, and that's about as far as it is in your own head. And when I was a little kid, I never thought about it. And the other day, I just realized, I was like, holy shit. Actually, when I was in school, in elementary school, in like the mid-'80s, I was in a white community. Like, full-fledged, like the real deal. And even now, it's like, not really, not anymore. I'm absolutely the odd man out. It's very surreal. Very surreal.
I wonder, so what was it? Like, people just not having kids anymore?
Yeah. It's a combination. Okay, so the birth rates for white Americans is like 1.9 or something.
Yeah, it's really low.
Yeah.
It's really, really low.
And the 1.9 is only because the left doesn't procreate. The right does. If it was only a matter of right-wing people, we'd be fine. So the way that it works is like just looking at all of my friends, all the people that I know, the ones that are left-leaning, they typically have 0 children, and the ones that are right-leaning, they typically have some kids. That's just the way that it is. And the population increase in America has been 100% been immigration. 100%. Our population should be going down. It should have been going down since the 1960s because of birth rates, but instead it's been going up. And the only reason, I stress, the only reason is because of immigration.
Yeah, I agree. And I think there is something to like the RK selection, and like maybe I've been listening to too much Dutton, but I don't know if you caught like the first part of my stream, but I was talking about like a video that Edward Dutton did on birth control and how it actually, like, how much it can affect a nation, especially a country that has a 19th Amendment. But so when a woman is on birth control, her body, I'll just run it down for you real quick. So this is what Edward Dutton was saying, and I actually agree with him. I thought it was a great video. So basically, when a woman takes birth control, it puts her body in like a constant state of ovulation, which makes the woman more like empathetic and more like prone to look for like a male that's more empathetic and more caring and loving, versus when granted, a woman only ovulates like a couple days out of the entire month. But what birth control does is puts a woman in that constant state of ovulation, and that will completely change the way a woman thinks, like in general, because her body's in a constant state of empathy. So and now of course we have put that with the 19th Amendment, so show a picture of a little kid at the border behind a cage, and God forbid like the woman freak out, because they're all like, most women are on, they're taking birth control, so they have this empathy in them that they just can't help but project per se. But I think there's a lot to it, because it also seems like the higher level IQ people aren't having many kids. Yeah. So this is where this like a RK selection comes into play. So you'll have the lower IQ having way too many kids, and then you'll have like the higher IQ, the more successful people have like 1 or 2.
Yeah, I've seen that.
It doesn't help. And it's like the middle class, like I think the middle class is kind of where you want to be, especially when it comes to populating. And middle class just isn't having kids. And, you can blame that on all types of things: birth control, Hollywood, jobs in general.
But it depends.
Like college.
But it always just depends, because the ones that are right leaning, they're not doing too bad. They're doing better. Yeah. Well, they're like, I don't know, I guess becoming more aware of it. Yeah. Well, God knows. I'm looking forward to, again, God willing, I do manage to find myself a wife. Oh, I'm having 3. Absolutely. Yeah. By the way, yeah. I just wanted to go ahead and just, I see that Josh has popped by, and I just wanted to say hi to Josh if he is anywhere near the mic.
Yo, what's up, guys?
Oh, hey, buddy. How you doing?
Hey, Josh.
How y'all doing?
Doing well. How's it going?
I'm just, I'm supposed to be working, but I busted my iPhone a few weeks ago.
Oh, no.
And I've been really sad because all of my music is on my iPhone.
No.
So
that sucks.
Going through the process of I bought the hard drive, or I removed the hard drive from my old laptop. I plugged it into my new laptop. I'm putting everything on. I'm slowly putting it on iTunes, and I'm thinking, like, this was like fun to do when I was 13, and it
Oh
was still
yeah.
fun at 23, and now it's just like I want to smash everything. But I've hit a point where it's like I need music again in my life.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm doing. Just stupid menial click, click.
Nice.
Nothing productive.
I'll take it. That's cool. Well, did you have any thoughts on what we've been talking about so far? Anything that pops out in your mind?
But just that I'm gonna fucking die, man. When the city's burned down, I'm just gonna throw myself in front of a car. I think that's
Well, I hope that doesn't happen, though.
Let me just.
You were talking about Cormac MacArthur before, right? The Road.
Yeah. McCarthy.
I watched that.
Yeah.
McCarthy. Yeah, I always screw that up.
It's okay.
I watched that movie recently. I've actually never read any of his books, but I watched that movie recently, and it's so terrifying.
Yeah.
I can almost understand when people say, "Well, I don't want to have a kid. I don't want them to have to face that world." I can almost understand it.
Dude, when his wife just was like, "Okay, I'm walking," like when she said that, I was like, "Oh my god, that's hardcore, bro. This movie just got real." It's like
It's hard to argue with her too. It's like
I know. Like I get it.
See both sides. On one hand, I can understand like the idealistic, we just stupidly hold on to hope because reality is too horrifying. It really is like the perfect male-female dichotomy, because the woman is like, no, we have to raise this fucking kid. How the hell are we gonna do this? Quit being an idiot. Let's just die and save ourselves this terror. And like a dumb guy, he's like, no, the perfect abstraction, the ideal, we'll do it, and we'll all make it out somehow. And it's like, man, the way I don't know how they do it in the book, but in the film, it's like, I guess it's Charlize Theron, I think.
Yeah.
It's like, it's hard to argue with her point of view.
I still side with the guy. In that I will freely admit it's super easy to give up and be like, fuck it. And on the other hand, I can't help but think, dude, you know what? No, I don't want to go out like that. I would rather make a go of it. Even if I know that I'm going to die, I would rather go out in a blaze of glory, basically. I would rather, like, seen from my own standpoint, being here in Los Angeles, I would much rather go to a less sparsely populated area and die in like some weird freaking freak accident where like I trip and I get a rock to the head for some reason, a very undignified death. But I would rather that, with the possibility that maybe I will have done something with my time to help out like a community of other people so that they can continue on, rather than here in Los Angeles, like basically I'm a walking burger waiting to happen, for some cannibal to just happen upon. So that's
a hilarious way to put it, a walking burger. That is such a vivid image. But it makes me think of I watched what is it, that show, The Walking Dead. I probably watched that for like 5 or 10 episodes when it was still interesting. And it's just, how do you make those relationships, and how do you get people to trust each other and keep people from fucking freaking out on each other when there's literally nothing holding anybody together? I mean, it's just, I agree with you. I would probably stick it out to the end, just because I would probably go for a noble or stupid death before just offing myself. But I mean, just how do you keep people together when there's no actual reason to go on? Like, you have to take your rational faculties completely out of the equation.
And now we enter the God pill.
Yeah, I was thinking that. Thank you, Eke. No, that's true. Well, I think it also kind of comes with trust, right? Like, you have to have some type of trust, not only a trust society, but it goes smaller. If, God forbid, an apocalypse does happen, then yeah, I mean, you have to just have a tight knit group of people that you can absolutely trust that aren't going to kill you for, 10 ounces of bread. But then I don't know, how do you find those people? Then yeah, it is kind of like the God pill. You have to have something that you're based in, right? Like you have to have that center focal point, like
Yeah.
whatever. Yeah. I mean, that's what it is. Like the shared center. That's what you have to have.
In the chat, Ruiner is saying that these are all black pills, and he's very distressed about it. That's funny. I kind of agree, but the thing is that like I would rather. Okay, so it's, in my opinion, it's only a black pill if you aren't expecting it, if you don't know how to deal with it. So back when I first discovered that Europe was going to be plunged into a new dark age because of mass Islamic migration, which is going to happen, it's just a matter of when it happens, I was upset. Like, I was really, really upset. I was very pissed off. And once I realized that here in America, we're basically looking at the death of the empire, and everything that I was brought up to value and love is slowly being taken away. It's slowly being destroyed. Yeah, it was really, really upsetting. So I mean, when you are first exposed to these things, it is extraordinarily blackpilling. And the only reason that I maintain some level of hope and optimism is because there are people that are coming online all the time. There are people that are noticing all the time. And the more eyes you have on a problem, the quicker it gets solved. This problem will get solved. It's just a matter of time. We just need to have critical mass. And I think that we're going to get critical mass within my lifetime. I don't think that I'm going to see the fruits of any of it, but I think that there's, of necessity, people are going to catch on. They're going to notice. So I would say to Ruiner, yeah, some of these are kind of black pills, but I don't think it's that bad. I think that we're going to be able to come out of this with a little bit of hard work. I just wanted to throw that out there.
Well, speaking the truth and, naming the merchant, name any type, whether there's a merchant or another problem, you just have to name it. Like, you call it out, and I don't know. I think that's why I don't know how you guys felt about Dave Chappelle's special. Did you guys watch that?
No, not yet.
I actually really enjoyed it. There are, of course, a lot of things I didn't agree with, but as far as comedy goes, I thought it was pretty brilliant. And I don't know, he calls out a lot of the nonsense here, but he kind of does it, of course, in a comedian type of way. But I don't know, it's like whatever works, man, to kind of wake up the masses to the nonsense. It's like we live in clown world. Like, how far is this really going to go? But at some point there has to be the straw that breaks the camel's back, to where people finally like snap out of it and like, oh, this is what's happening. I don't know what it's gonna, because I still hold that Texas turning blue in 2024 is going to be a big shock to a lot of people. Because even who is it? Kevin Michael Grace, Luke Ford's co-host, he doesn't believe that Texas is going to turn blue.
Wow,
he's never been there.
Rumor.
Okay, let me rephrase. Let me come back from that. That was like a year ago. I was talking with them about a year ago about that, and neither of them believed me. So it's like, I mean, that's, maybe they've come along in the last year, I don't know, but those are the guys that are ahead of the curve. So if those are the guys that are ahead of the curve and they don't believe that Texas is going to turn blue, like, there's going to be a real psychological, and I'm starting to see CNN eke toward talking about that. They're starting to talk about it a little bit, and they're very careful not to talk about demographics. So, I mean, maybe there will be, but the funny thing is that, like, that kind of takes the shock out of it. Maybe that's why CNN is pushing this right now, the whole thing of Texas demographic, or Texas turning blue. I saw it like a couple days ago. So maybe they're going to try to take the air out of that a little bit. so that it's not as much of a shock to the boomers. I have no idea. But I think that I do think there's going to be a point where it's so obvious you can't help but notice, and I'm struggling to try to figure out what it could possibly be. And all I can think at the moment is Texas turning blue. It's the only thing that I can think of. I mean, I don't
well, I know you guys had to have seen the Taylor Swift cover of, I don't know if it's her new album or her song that was getting ready to be released, but she's like hugging some black dude.
Oh yeah.
Like, I see what you're doing. Like, the projectors are going to project. So not only, I mean, of course, obviously for reasons I'm pro freedom of association, but it's just a whole thing of when it's forced and it's legislated that absolutely is just disgusting. And I don't know, like, as long as they're projecting this stuff onto the masses, then everything's just fine and dandy. Like, who cares if you're being replaced, Whitey? You know?
Yeah.
Tragic.
Yeah.
I see what you're doing. That's funny.
Sorry, I was just typing something out real fast. The other possibility is, and I talk about this a lot, so one of the reasons that I'm touching on this is just as sort of a touchstone for those in chat to reinforce it in their minds. But the whole thing of demographics, once you start exposing people to demographic shifts, people start to get really centric. They start to think about in-group versus out-group. So I think that another thing is going to, another possibility is going to be just people visually noticing what's happening in their cities. Back when I was a blue-pilled normie, one day, this is back in 2011 or 2012, I don't remember, this is back when I used to be a cyclist. Yeah, I used to be a cyclist. I still like cycling. Judge me. And I was on one of those night rides that used
That's
to be...
okay, bro. I cycle too.
Oh, thank God I'm not the only one. I love it. Okay, good. Anyway, I was on one of those night rides, and we went out to East LA. And it was the first time that I'd been to East LA in like a decade plus. And when I went out there, we stopped, we had a rest break, we were just looking for food or water or whatever, and I just looked out at what was around me, and out of nowhere I just noticed that well over half of the group, they were all young Mexican kids of like late teens, maybe early 20s. And I just knew right then and there, I was like, that's the future. That is the future. Everything that I knew is over. That was in 2011. That was before I was exposed to any of this stuff. So even a blue-pilled normie will be able to look out and start to notice things. And it was a demographic issue. It actually was a demographic issue. So maybe there's something to the idea of, I don't want to say artificially red pilling people, because people tend to self red pill, but maybe you can like hand it to them a little quicker, or maybe you can spike their beverage. I don't know, but there may be something to that. But yeah, like, cause I don't know, like it's hard to explain. Maybe it's just me. It might just be me. But I keep looking out here in Los Angeles, and I'll just have conversations with people, and it must be in my head, but everything seems so false, and it seems forced. It seems like when I'm talking to people, like there's almost a desperation for normality or something. I don't know. Maybe it's just in my head. I honestly don't know. But it's like, I would swear that people know. I would swear that people understand that something is amiss, things are afoot, and it's like we're all intentionally avoiding it. Maybe I'm crazy, I really don't know.
Well, maybe that's it. Like, it's one thing to notice the demographic shift, but it's another thing to care about it. It's like, okay, I notice it, but if you care about it, then, you know, that's one thing. But if like, I can just think of like my liberal white friends, and they'll see, yeah, so what? Like Mexicans are here. Like this is America now. Like they don't care. They're not going to do anything about it. They're not going to vote to try to change it. They're not going to. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know how you change it. I don't think you can. Like after you notice it, it's like, well, then what? I don't want to get like Fed posty, but it's kind of true.
Yeah. By the way, I see that we have Sin in here, so I just wanted to say hey to Sin. Hey, buddy, how's it going?
It's going pretty well, buddy. How are you?
Hey, Sport. Yeah, I'm well. I don't know, Ash, if you've met Sin, or Sin, if you have met Ash, but yeah, Sin is, he's one of the guys that used to frequent my streams back when I first started, like last year. So he's one of my favorite regulars. He's one of my favorite people to chit chat. He doesn't stream. He just literally goes into chats.
Fun, huh?
Yeah.
I think I may have been on here one other time with you, but I didn't have a chance to stay on very long. But yeah, hi, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, Ash. I've talked to you in chat, but I've never like on like the Hangouts. So, pretty cool to be on with you.
All right, awesome. Yeah, you too, man.
Cool. So okay, real quick, man. I totally boomered tonight, and did not, or I guess non-boomered since this stream is for boomers. But I missed the whole thing, man. So were you just kind of going? Were you kind of meandering, or was there a specific thing I should know about?
Just generally, because okay, so like you, I haven't chit-chatted with Ash in a while, so we were just generally chit-chatting. That's really all it was.
Shooting the breeze, as it were.
Yeah, pretty much. And one of the things, because Ash has 2 kids, and so one of the things that we were discussing is the pending weirdness that may or may not happen, that I think will, but how to deal with that, and what your life would be like, the kinds of things that you would do in the event of a boogaloo situation if you have other people that absolutely depend on you.
Man, I don't know, dude. That's a topic that I've oftentimes eschewed, simply because, you know, you and I both are in the same position, man. I mean, we're both childless men who, in the event of a boogaloo, would pretty much kind of just have to look out for ourselves. So
yeah,
it's kind of like, you know, from Ash's perspective, someone who has kids, you know, I'm reminded, not to get too dark real quick, but there's a line in the Bible I've seen before. I think it's in the book of Revelation, where it talks about, you know, woe be unto those with, you know, young, you know, babes or whatever. I forget how it words it, but it's basically like, woe to those who have young children during those days, because it's going to be really bad for you, essentially. And I'm like, yeah, that checks out.
Yeah, I still hold that the commandment, all of my ancestors that fought and died for me to be alive, they fought and died for nothing.
Right. It ends here for no reason.
Exactly, and that's not good. I don't like that. So I don't want to say that it's not acceptable, because it's like, well, okay, well, what am I gonna do? Like, but I would like to. I hope I can find a way to make that happen, because my gosh, I don't want it to end here. You know, there needs to be a future. There has to be something to look forward to.
Yeah, I don't know. You know, for me, man, I feel exactly the same way. I just kind of comfort myself with the half fantasy, half wishful thinking of, I'll just secure a waifu, you know, post-war.
Nice.
You know, from the ruins, as it were. Yeah. But barring that, yeah, it's kind of a rough world out there, man.
Yeah. Yeah, right now it kind of is. It could get a little bit worse, a little more upsetting. But yeah, one of the things that we were thinking about was the idea of how good it is to be in a city. And I honestly think that Los Angeles is just going to burn. That's my honest opinion.
My opinion on the matter of how good it is to be in a city is that it's double plus ungood.
Yeah, concur. That's some good duck speak. That's
yeah.
That's some good
I'm just
duck
saying,
speak.
you know, for me, man, you know, I like just recently got out of, you know, Phoenix, which, as you know, is the like largest city in Arizona, right? And it's basically LA 2.0. It's LA maybe 10 years behind the degeneracy curve, right? But it's heading in the same direction essentially. And there's like remnants of, you know, right-wing control here, but it's rapidly waning, especially in cities. But,
all of them, though. All of them.
But it's a death trap, man. I mean, if you want to talk about death trap cities, there's probably none greater than Phoenix, because it's a city entirely dependent on infrastructure functioning. You know, water, power, air conditioning, and, you know, everything being rolled in by truck. I mean, you know, the stories they talk about where it's like, you know, if the truck stopped rolling in 3 days, it'd be complete and utter anarchy and pandemonium. It's like, well, that's like the poster child for that. Because it'd be. And it's a sprawling megalopolis that there'd be no way to get out of in the event of any serious, I mean, the roads would be completely fucked, just like LA.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's like, it's a death trap, essentially. Just like LA, just like, you know, I mean, even like Chicago, a place like Chicago, or any of the other kind of like eastern cities, I don't think they'll be quite as much of a death trap as some of the western megacities, particularly like southwestern, like LA, Phoenix, you know, Vegas, they're all fucked.
Chicago, there's still like farmland around it. And here in
Right,
Los Angeles,
and it's kind of like you
nothing.
can just wander out of the city if you really needed to.
Yeah, that's
You
not
know,
possible
you would eventually
here.
find yourself like in the countryside if you just kind of picked a road and followed it.
Yeah, the upsetting thing about Los Angeles is that we're in an actual bowl, a geological bowl.
Yeah.
So we're in a cup of death, and it's really not good. It's really
Phoenix
bad.
is exactly the same way, dude. So
Yeah.
like, all these western cities are like that, dude. They're all they're little islands of you know, habitability currently, but soon it'll be the complete opposite. And so, but out here it'll be worse because, as we've pointed out, it's like it's not particularly amenable to human life outside of most of these cities. I mean, it's kind of badlands in a lot of the West here. So it'll be a lot of I basically expect Mad Max essentially in California. That's kind of what I think is like the future. It's not far.
Well, I think we already live there, but that's just me.
Well, fuck, dude. I haven't been there in a while, so I'm not exactly. I only see through the lens of the media report, the alternative media reports, which at least show you what's really going on. But it's like they only see a small piece of it.
Well, I'm thinking, so coming back to the idea of, because Ash was talking about how abandoning the cities is bad, and I technically agree. But the problem is that, like, when you think about like trying to create a safe and stable community, getting food in without grocery stores, basically the cities are just no good. So it's like I almost feel like there's sort of a happy medium. Like maybe there's a way that you could go to a less densely packed city, or maybe you could go to a smaller city and you could somehow find a way to help be a part of the process to salvage that one. You know?
I mean, I get I get what like Ash is saying, that it's not good to abandon the cities, but the real issue is that it's kind of like you're admitting defeat almost, right? But the issue is that we kind of need to admit defeat, because the problem is that the culture. So Eke, my issue with your whole thing of like maybe a smaller city, it really doesn't matter, man. If you if you are connected to the culture, if people are sitting there and they're watching CNN or they're getting the Hollywood Video Awards piped into their houses, it's like, well, they're all on the same page, man.
I was talking with a guy who was watching. He's this guy with whom I was speaking. He's very woke, by the way. He was listening to Jordan Peterson, Ben Shapiro, the intellectual dark web. So very woke. And I'm kidding. I do like the guy. He's actually really cool. But anyway, he was saying that he was watching Roosh V, and Roosh V was going to like multiple cities, and my buddy was like, dude, I thought all of the Globo Homo stuff was located just in major cities and that the heartland was relatively untouched. And he was saying that as he was watching Roosh, and I'm going to have to watch them because I want to see for myself. Apparently, all of this stuff, it's absolutely in the small towns. It's totally in the smaller burgs, just like what you're saying. The connection to a standardized culture means that it's going to be pervasive. It's going to be everywhere. So,
dude, did you ever watch the second Matrix film?
But
whatever it is,
I
Reloaded.
saw it in my mid-20s, and I didn't like it at all. So
no, yeah, me neither, dude. But you remember the famous scene, right, where he's with the architect and the bunch of TVs, and they do the whole breakdown reveal of the whole like situation, I feel like it really is kind of like that sometimes, like specifically in the sense of where he said, most people would accept the program, but there was a small fraction percentage that wouldn't, and they were the problem. And it's like, well, look, that's what we're dealing with here. Everybody is being exposed everywhere to like Global Homo, to the propaganda, to the like anti-culture that comes through. And so they're going to be exposed. The only question is, do they take it or do they reject it, right? Like most people will take to it because it's what they perceive as like the dominant culture, right? So they're like, well, okay. But a small fraction of people are like, no, this doesn't feel right. Something's wrong with it. And, that's like the people that that dug for the truth and that red pilled themselves and that ended up here in places and with people like us.
Oh yeah, that was actually my favorite one of the Animatrix. My favorite one of those was the runner that like ran out of the Matrix.
He was like, he like broke the rules.
Yeah. And
woke him up basically. Yeah.
Yeah. So like he accidentally self-red pilled. I genuinely feel like that's where I landed. Where like there was a trail, there were breadcrumbs that I could have followed at any time. People were showing me things all the time, and I never took any of them seriously. And then one day, I saw the breadcrumbs, and I was like, "Fuck it, let's see where this goes." And I accidentally self-red pilled. And I feel like that's where that probably is the biggest weak link. The biggest chink in their armor. We just have to find ways to
So my dad, I'll give props to my dad because I feel like it's like Jesus with the parable of the mustard seed. Like I feel like my dad was the one that kind of planted these seeds in my head. Like, well, Ashley, you know who runs Hollywood, you know who runs the banks, you know who runs the media. And he used to tell me this stuff as a kid, and it never like really occurred to me until fairly recently. And I became like extremely J-woke. And then it's like, damn, dad. My dad, like thank God my dad told me all of this, because now it's like, like now that makes sense. Like everything he told me. And a couple of weeks ago, actually, I talked to him for like 2 hours. And it's funny because now I'm a Christian and he was a Christian and now he's an atheist. And so we'll talk about that. But one thing we do agree on is the J's. And he's like, I told you when you were a kid, everybody thought I was crazy, but I told you, and now you see it. I'm so proud.
I love it.
But that's the thing. Awesome. And like I have this I kind of have a theory when it comes to raising kids, And like I don't want my kids to grow up and just be red pilled one day, because it's kind of it's almost heartbreaking, isn't it? Like when you're red pilled, you kind of think things are pretty good, or maybe you see some shit here and there, but for the most part, like, you know, things are pretty good, and then you become red pilled on different topics, and you're like, oh man, like it's kind of depressing, and then you start dipping your toes into like more black pilling things. And so I don't know, I kind of have a theory that if I just keep my kids based from the get-go, once they're older, they're going to be able to recognize what's right and what's wrong, and they won't have to be red pilled because they're going to know this information already.
I actually think that's the correct direction to go, because speaking from personal experience, accidentally self-red pilling at age like 39 was not pleasant. So
yeah, it sucks, man. Yeah. The red pill is not fun. It is, and it's like in the Matrix when the that one dude, what was his name? Cypher, was that his name in the first one? And he doesn't want to be red pilled anymore. Like one of the things, like, all right, I'll do this, but the condition, I don't want to remember anything. And it's like, well, it's too late, buddy. Like once you do it, you know.
Yeah,
here you are.
Every so often I'll just catch myself sort of slipping into a reverie in which I'm pretending that I'm not red pilled, and I get to experience things as just a normal fucking bug man again. And I'm like, isn't that lovely? And then of course it just immediately goes away. You know, once I realize what I'm doing, I'm like, oh, back to reality. It's so funny. So I get like a little baby Cypher moment every so often, just because.
It also, because like what I've noticed from being red pilled, it's kind of segregating, you know. Like I have a hard time conversating with people outside of kind of small talk, because everything, for whatever reason, I guess since the rise, like I guess since Trump got elected, honestly, everything is just so political. And it's well, once you get to the politics and the conversation, it's hard to not bring up what you already know and what like your red pills are, that I feel like I have this armory of red pills I could just start spouting out. But like honestly, it's just kind of tiring to talk about, but it's also exciting when you meet somebody that has no idea what's happening. And you just want to just tell them all about it, but you can't do that. So I keep going back and forth what you say, Eke, about the pink pill. It's like
because I've spoken to a couple of guys about some of these topics, and there's this one dude that I was talking to, and I had to be really careful. I was only talking about like PC culture and how there are crypto communists within the DNC. And I started talking a little bit about like SJWs, a little bit about some of the things that they talk about, you know, pro-Marxist things and so on. And I had to really tiptoe. Like I swear to you, I started looking around because I was at a store with people, a lot of people, and I started looking around to be like, fuck, I can't bring up that he's white. I cannot bring up that he's white and that this is going to be a major issue within the next decade, but I wanted to. And it's like I couldn't, because I was in a crowd. And even if there was no crowd, you know, imagine being a bug man again for just a moment, and imagine some guy just coming up to you and being like, you're a white guy, buddy, and that's going to be a big time issue. You know, it's like, that's going to sound fucking crazy. It's going to sound absolutely nuts. I mean, it's true, but it sounds crazy. You know, so it's like...
No, Eke, OPSEC is a very real concern, dude, at all times. Because you never know when you might get bike locked, man.
Yeah,
I mean,
you jest, but
let's be honest.
real.
You're in California. I mean, you're deep in enemy territory.
Yeah, that's why I'm so careful, because legitimately, my life is not that bad right now. You know, I have
and therein lies the source of why things are not happening right now, because most people, I think, have that attitude, right? That it's like, well, things aren't that bad right now.
Yeah, and that's why I want to either get the hell out of here, or if I don't leave, I want to set myself up in such a way that I can be vocal.
Right.
because
think of it like this, man. You're in a canoe, right? And you're just going down the river, and everything seems fine, right? And you're in a canoe with like a bunch of people. You're in a boat, whatever. It doesn't matter. And you just happen to look and see that it's about to go over fucking like Niagara Falls, right? Like it's coming, and it's not that far. Nobody else has taken the time to actually look and notice that. And so you wonder, do you waste time trying to shout at all the people that are partying and drinking and having a good time that they're about to go over this cliff and have them not listen to you? Or do you just get the fuck off the boat, man?
Yeah. Oh god, yeah.
I mean, that's really what it is.
Anglejort's calling me out. He's saying that not that bad is inaction. Oh, it hurts.
Oh man, yeah. Well,
it's true.
The problem is that it is that bad, but you can't convince enough people that it is, because it's not affecting them directly. That's the problem.
Yeah, because a lot of people, they can still fool themselves, and a lot of people do, that there are no problems, that nothing is really manifesting. I think that things are going to manifest, and it's like, how do you talk about that? You know, it's like, and this is my main issue, is that I think that once you start talking about these things, a lot of stuff comes to the surface, and people, it gets easier. You know, people freak out. Even a regular SJW will freak. They might have a system function, a system shutdown temporarily, but if you do talk to them long enough, you can get them to understand some of the things that you're talking about. You know, isolate a cult member from the cult, and you can start to have some conversation with them. Once they're within the confines of the cult, you know, once they're in a big group, all of it goes to shit. But for a few moments, you can puncture the programming, you know.
It's hard to do. It's like, well, how do you talk to them, or how do you red pill them, or I don't know, just talk to them in general. It's like very, very carefully.
It's really hard.
I actually met so my brother-in-law had one of his buddies from like he's known since high school come over to the house, and I went out and met him, and this is the very first time since being fully red pilled that I actually met somebody who was okay with banning assault rifles. And the whole time I'm talking to him, I'm just like, oh my god, like you always see these people on Twitter that talk about this, or like on YouTube streams or whatnot, but I actually met one in real life, and I was like, what do I do? But I had a pretty good conversation with him, and I like shook his hand at the end of it. But it's like
good on you, seriously.
They're gone, man. Like they're it's like the fluoride stare. It really is. Like the things that you say, they just it doesn't resonate with them whatsoever. Like they can't see it. It's like they don't have the ears to hear, and nor they don't even want to, you know.
That's one of the things that I've actually heard. I've heard that from some progressives. An interesting sentence, something to the effect of, I have invested my entire life into this. So basically, their ideological program, they have spent a whole life believing, and they don't want to go back on it, because that means they will have wasted, 30 years of their life or whatever, 40 years, however old they are.
Yeah,
and it's like, holy cow. I mean, at that point in time, they're basically saying, I've been completely indoctrinated into a cult, and I don't know how to leave. That's kind of what is being said. And I think that there must be more than just one or two people that think that way.
Or it's worse, like, I guess what could be worse is they're in a cult and don't even know it. This is like, how do you tell them, like, hello, knock on the head, knock on the window, like, you're in a cult, buddy. You can't see it. Like, you can't see past the cult you're in.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And sometimes people compare all of this to, what is it? Religion to, Yeah, I think that is, because that's the whole point of propaganda, is to seed ideas in such a way that nobody notices that they're being programmed. And that's completely what's going on right now. And it's unfortunate, because, like, it's so effective. It's so effective. You know, sometimes I even see it myself. Sometimes I'll watch these TV shows and I'll suddenly forget that all of this is programming. You know, it's rare, but just once in a while that actually does happen. And I'll just be like, yeah, man, cool, people are getting along, I like that. And then I'll just suddenly remember, oh yeah, that's right, this is all bullshit.
It's all projection.
Yeah,
it's weird. Like, unironically, I love The Handmaid's Tale. I know it's absolutely ridiculous, but
okay, that's
I don't
enough
know.
from
I like
Ash.
acting.
Thank you very much. It's been a great pleasure. No, I'm joking. I'm kidding.
Actually, I don't know how. It's like one of these just weird dramas that I just kind of got sucked into. Obviously, like, I can watch it and I know exactly what the propaganda is, especially when it gets real hardcore feminist and like women's rights nonsense. But I mean, I'm just kind of watching it for the acting and the story. I kind of got sucked into it, but it's still like I feel based enough to where I can't watch anything anymore, man. Like, I tried to watch the newest Avengers film. It's horrible, man. So the newest Avengers, it was the second film. The most recent one, I watched it, and I'm watching with my husband, my brother-in-law, and my sister, and I'm laughing at most of it. Like, Jesus fucking Christ, man. Like, they're making Thor, of course, like the blonde-headed white dude. They make him like this slobby drunk loser, and they have like it's just ridiculous. I couldn't watch. And they made Hulk. They put Hulk in a fucking sweater vest and put glasses on him, and he's like, you know, he's a genius that's also big and green. It's ridiculous. But I mean, I don't know. Like, I'm just, how can you guys watch this? Like, this is like, can't you see this? And I can't watch Hollywood anymore. I can just see everything.
I'm in the same boat. I started watching a TV show on Netflix called Mindhunter, and I watched it because David Fincher he was one of the producers, and I think he directed the first episode or something. And I like his direction style. I understand that he's paused, but he's really, in terms of just raw technicality, like just talent and the ability to see things and to make genuinely interesting and compelling visuals. He's great. So I was watching this Mindhunter program, same thing, super duper paused, and they did everything they could to, because it's basically it's a buddy cop TV show between two they're CIA or FBI. Yeah, they're FBI. They're FBI agents that, it's a period piece, but the period is the 1970s. Doesn't make any sense, but whatever. And they're going after, like, serial killers to interview them to understand how serial killers think or something. And they decided they're going to mega hyper cuck the strong man of the two so that his wife is barren and they can't have kids, and they adopt an autistic kid, and their wife is like, or their marriage is kind of like weird, and they're having a difficult time with their kid or something. And it's like, Jesus, way to take a shit on him, huh? And like they keep hammering at him throughout the show. And like the other one, the doughy-eyed true believer FBI agent, he's like one of those goody two-shoes types, you know, perfect haircut, you know, good-looking pressed suit and so on, just a general goody two-shoes. And he has a wild girlfriend, and the wild girlfriend is one of these druggy hippie types or something, but of course very intellectual. She has to be very, very smart. And like basically they're going straight ahead pause, like formal actual pause, and like in some instances uncomfortably so. And it's like the whole time I'm watching an entire feminist agenda, firstly, and it's not just feminist, like we're going to empower this woman for X reason or something like that. Like they're also taking shit on men like all the time. And as I'm watching it, it's like some of these concepts are interesting, but I can see that this is basically an I hate men TV show.
Yeah.
And after a while, it's like, well, I don't want to watch this. I don't want to watch a bunch of people talk about how they don't like me. I want to watch something else. Yeah, it's really weird. It's really... looks like Sin took off. Shit.
Uh-oh. Yeah, I might have to dip out soon. It's 12 here, and I gotta wake up at 7 for my school.
Oh yeah, no,
for
you
schooling
should. Okay, actually,
for my kids.
yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and call the stream because Josh, he popped in. Great that Josh popped in. Great that Sin popped in. And
Yeah.
yeah, at some point, obviously not tonight, but at some point, like, if you need help with OBS, I'll walk you through what I know.
Yeah, that would be great, man.
Yeah.
Whatever you can, it's greatly appreciated.
Yeah.
But
So anyway, all right. So that was our stream. Is there? I'm just gonna generally like click it off. I'm just gonna end the stream. But before I do that,
okay. Yeah.
before I do that, is there anything that you wanted to like plug? Is there anything that's on your mind that you want people to know about? Or
I don't know. Just stay saved and red pilled, y'all. Like, take the God pill. Read your New Testament very carefully, and I think there's a lot of answers in there. I know we didn't get into any like religion tonight, but I think there's a lot to it. But yeah, and if you can have kids and keep them based and keep them, I guess, quote unquote, red pilled, so they don't have to be 30 years old and find out,
Dude.
you know, everything that we had to find out.
Yeah.
Grow gardens, yeah.
Okay, so basically, open up your New Testament. That's really what I'm getting out of this. Okay.
Yeah,
good.
pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah, read.
But yeah, thanks for having me come on, and yeah, we'll keep in touch.
Yeah, for sure.
Glad, okay.
Yeah, all
Night,
right,
buddy.
guys. Yeah, cheers. All right, so that was Ash, and I'd like to go ahead and thank everybody here in chat for also popping by. I may or may not, I probably will stream in like an hour. It's very likely what I'm going to do. But anyhow, yeah, thank you everyone for popping by, and I'll very likely see everyone, well, some of you anyway, in about an hour. And yeah, I guess that's about it. I'm going to go with the big takeaway of, yeah, open your Bible, read Galatians, get red-pilled. That said, I'll see everybody a little bit later on. Cheers.